Hello YouTube, I'm going to be talking about AE particles, which is something that I've been updating. It's really been there for a pretty long time, but I made a big update to it, and now I'm going to show you. So if you don't know what a particle is, it's basically, like some examples would be blood, I guess. I'm not exactly sure if blood would go in there. Water, definitely, and, explosions. So basically, if you still don't have a idea of what a particle is, I guess in layman's terms, a bunch of shapes or a bunch of sprites basically scattering around to create like a pretty nice effect. So I'm gonna run this code that I made, and as you can see, I have a bunch of particles exploding or scattering from my mouse. And basically, the main explosion point, if you can't tell, I'm not sure if Cam Studio is catching it, rapidly, but basically the particle's exploding point is right where my mouse is. So basically, it's scattering away from my mouse, and I can move my mouse, anywhere I want, left, right, up, down, anywhere on this window at least, and the exploding point would basically be right there on my mouse. So basically, I'm gonna explain to you what each function does, but of course in layman's terms, because I can't explain each line of code. So basically, you have the window, which I believe I explained in the AE explanation videos, and then you have AE particle and the part. So AE particle is one of the classes, as you can see, and one of the main functions is set forever. And what that does is the particles will keep on exploding as long as the window or the program is running. So if I turn that off and then run it, and it's compiling, you can see that nothing's there. That doesn't mean that there's no point on having set forever off, because there's a function called set duration for as many milliseconds as you want. And what that does is basically the particles are gonna explode or scatter for that many milliseconds, and then it'll just stop. So basically, I set it to 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. And now let's run it. So as you can see, the particles exploded, but then just stopped because a millisecond passed, and then that just means that it'll stop. Now the point of this is because in games you can't have an explosion constantly, exploding, or you can't have someone on fire forever, because eventually the fire or the explosion would have to die out, which is why there would be a duration to, basically set how long the particle can go on. So for the sake of the video, I'm gonna keep forever to be true, and let's move on to the next function, which is set intensity. Now this is the most important function in the entire particle class, because basically it tells you how many particles are going to be there, how long it's going to explode. And so let me show you the parameters of it. So you have int intensity and int milliseconds. So basically milliseconds, intensity is how many sprites, how many particles are going to be in there. I doubt you were counting, but there was 50 particles exploding. And then milliseconds, it's not like the duration, it's basically meaning how long it's going to expand until it restarts. So let me set this to 100 milliseconds and run it. Compiling. Okay, so as you can see, I'm not sure if the studio is getting this either, but it's definitely not it's not expanding as far as it was before. It's like basically like in a little ball or whatever, because it's basically giving it 100 seconds and then it's going to restart. So that's why I usually keep my particles at 1000 milliseconds. That way it gives it time to expand. Now let me set this intensity to something lower just to show you that the first parameter is still important. So I set this to 5 instead of 50. And as you my bad. Let me set this to 1000 so you can actually see it. Compiling. So as you can see, there's only 5 particles exploding, or expanding basically. And then part set color is pretty self-explanatory. It's basically your RGB value, red, green, or blue. And basically for this tutorial I was using 255 for the red, so I could set this to 255 and it'll be green. And I'm going to get an error since I didn't set the first parameter. And there you go. Now it's green. So basically, that was particle rect, or particle rectangles. Now there's one more type of particle, which would be particle sprites, but it's not its separate class. It's still a particle class, but it's basically a function that can set it to be in a sprite, and that would be particle set sprite. Then sprites, which is my sprites folder, and then brick.png, and now I'm going to let it compile. As you can see, now you have 50 bricks scattering throughout the screen for 1000 milliseconds. And basically, what I'm trying to say is, even though it's a sprite, it's going to act the same way as a particle rect. Like, you know, it's still going to be forever, it's still going to be the same color, it's just going to be a different sprite, or not a different sprite, but it is going to be a sprite instead of a bunch of rectangles. Why I chose bricks, I have no clue. I guess it was the only thing in my sprites folder that I could remember. But that's basically all I have to show. There are a couple more functions, but they're kind of hard to explain. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day.